So I got some feminine feedback on this video.
When you know that you are the creator of your experience, your reality, your life, you create your identity, you build this persona, which we call ego. When you know that that's all a creation, then you can't be a victim.
And it was lacking a little bit of empathy.
Stop being a little bitch.
So I'm going to bring a little bit more empathy and hold space for the that part of us that feels identified with victimhood. We need to hold space for that. To create a safe space for that to be expressed, to be acknowledged, that those feelings are happening, to be acknowledged that those feelings are happening. You're having the feeling, you're triggered, you feel maybe anxious, maybe unsafe, maybe feel shame. Ask yourself, is that actually happening right now? Or is it just a triggered response to some challenging situation that you may be experiencing now, but is the trigger, the feeling, proportional to what's happening? Is it a familiar trigger? Well, if it's a familiar trigger, then maybe it's initially come from an experience that you had earlier in life, some point in your past maybe, where you didn't feel like you were safe. You didn't feel like you had power, or you didn't feel like you had a say. You didn't feel free in some way. As a child, you felt extremely vulnerable, and that was your only way to respond to the situation, which was to close up emotionally, to repress your feelings in order to stay safe, to please others, for example. But that now you are an adult, for example, you may be going through the same repeating cognitive cycles when you were confronted with a challenging situation. But is it actually happening? Are you actually vulnerable right now? And you can answer logically, well, no, I have a lot of awareness now, a lot of skills, a lot of abilities. I understand that these feelings I have are not proportional to the situation that I'm actually in. I actually am quite safe. And I also know that people aren't really judging me because they're too busy, too concerned with their own self-interest. So my shame and my anxiety about what other people might think of me, or my sense of lack of autonomy is not real, because nobody can take it from me now, because I'm not that younger version of me that first experienced that anymore. So when I continue repeatedly to remind myself, or someone else holds space for me and helps me to remember that I am not that version of me anymore, and I am more confident and more capable of making good choices in my life, and I'm not going to mess up, and I'm not under threat, because I am aware enough to not put myself in dangerous situations, or I'm not going to get myself involved with people who are not having my best interests at heart. But even if the people around me they have my best interests at heart, my triggers can become destructive if I don't acknowledge that they are triggers and they're not actually evidence of something happening right now. It's just how I feel. And with the new evidence, which is contrary to what I experienced in the past, which is that I am safe to express myself authentically without judgment, then I can start to dissolve these fears, these triggers, these anxieties. Stop identifying with that former version of myself that I once held on to so tightly to protect myself, which made me feel small. And I acted small throughout my life because I held on to these fears that haunted me ever since whenever that past event occurred that caused me to close up into myself in order to feel safe, but by being small. But I want to be authentic. You want to be authentic, right? So you don't want to feel in danger for being your authentic self. You want to express yourself. You need to feel safe to do so. Because if you want to express yourself authentically, you need to feel safe. Because if you're constantly feeling your triggers come up from past, which causes you to close up and become more inauthentic, then you're going to feel shame and you're going to feel anxiety because you know that you are stuck in this loop cycle, and it's going to make your confidence drop, and then we're going to become very resentful. So you have to hold space for that, and you have to work it out. Like, okay, you don't need to go back to your past though, because you know that those triggers are coming from your past. But right now, you have to ask the question, but am I actually okay now? Can I handle my life now? And the answer is usually yes. Whatever challenges come, you can deal with them because you have more skills, abilities, you have more confidence, you're more aware, you're more resourceful now than when you were a child, for example, when you first started to experience that pain because you didn't feel loved or appreciated or valued by your parents, for example, or you were disregarded. Your opinion didn't matter, so you were forced to be quiet. So you didn't feel being authentic was of any value. So you had to be a specific kind of way in order to feel valued by your peers. But actually, your true value is in your authenticity. And when you know that, you will start to feel more safe in expressing yourself authentically. Is there any more I would add to that? From a more feminine, less harsh, masculine approach that I went to in the other version of this video. You're the creator of this world, and nothing can really hurt you. Everything that you went through was challenging you to become aware, to know thyself. Starting off by putting you into this illusion that you were small, powerless, weak, unaware, vulnerable. But then growing slowly into this awareness through your awareness kind of from the inside. As you went through all the pain and suffering, you started to crumble and crack through the pain of all the experience in your life, and the light started to shine through those cracks until a version of you kind of fell away, and what was left was the truth. Nothing can touch you, because what died was an illusion. That was just an identity based around all the fears that you accumulated throughout your life. The fears that you weren't worthy, that you could never do enough, because you could never be enough, you could never be good enough, you could never be loved. You had to work in order to be of any value. You had to be a slave to the system. You had to comply. You had to gain status. You had to be adored. None of that mattered. Because if you got all of those things, you never felt complete within you. because it wasn't you, because you were creating an externalized image, basically objectifying yourself. And that left you feeling empty. Then that falls away and you realize that you deserved it all along. You had the power all along. You deserved love all the while. There is nothing to do, there's nothing to achieve, but simply just receive the truth, which is that you are the light that you were looking for all this time, that you were the love that you were looking for, and the mirror reflects back to you everything that you truly are. Once you let go of the mask, the mirror reflects back to you the truth, which is you are the divine creation that you always wished to be. And your world reflects that back to you, and it brings you your counterpart, which matches that energy, and invites you into a union with yourself to become the integrated self, the true self, and not the false self that's propagated on us throughout this whole world, matrix, game, illusion, whatever you want to call it, Maya, where you create a true expression, true world, through love. Is that better? Is that better than telling people to stop being little bitches and just remember that they're the creator of their whole experience? Because that's also true, right? But this is the nicer version. This is the yeah, it's a better version. It's more evolved. It's more balanced. If you don't like this version, you can watch the other version, which is just purely masculine, stop being a pussy kind of version. That's a shorter version. It's also very triggering, and it lacks that feminine inclusiveness, and maybe it lacks a little bit of empathy for the pain and suffering that we go through, even though the pain and suffering is experienced by the adoption of ego, which is a hollow mimic self. But we do experience that. It's a valid experience. Should we experience it? Or need we continue to experience it? I'd say not, when you understand the true nature of who you are. Have you got anything to add to that? No. I'm just rambling now. Time for bed.
There's nothing to fix.